2 days out from key elections in Democratic-controlled states, President Donald Trump has been notably quiet about the races and completely absent from the campaign trail. In Virginia, the president has only endorsed one Republican statewide candidate, Attorney General Jason Miyares. While in New Jersey, the president's support for the GOP gubernatorial candidate Jack Ciattarelli was a tele-rally last week. And his commentary on California's redistricting ballot measure has been largely focused on discrediting the vote. His administration has said it will monitor polling sites in California and New Jersey. Joining us now, John Avlon, host of How to Fix It podcast on the Bulwark and author of Lincoln and the Fight for Peace, which is a great history, I might add, and Emma Vigeland, co-host of The Majority Report. Okay, so
sounds like a really confident president who's like out there campaigning for all of his candidates and leading the party across the finish line.
I remember hearing a lot about Biden in the bunker.
Right?
Yeah. Do you think that Donald Trump made the calculation that these are not strong candidates in New Jersey and Virginia in these governor's races, and so stay out? What do you think?
No, I think Jack Ciattarelli, who came within 2 points of Phil Murphy last time, and Trump made his biggest per capita gains in New York and New Jersey, is a much more competitive race than Democrats would like to admit. I think it's that Trump is really unpopular. And the Latino vote that he really benefited from in 2024 isn't looking like it's going to trend his way. So I think it's an acknowledgement of weakness and really lack of security. I mean, he's going to get his head handed.
But Ciattarelli's embraced him in the race.
Oh,
he hasn't
100%.
pretended to not be MAGA or something like that.
No, that's a great point. But I think, Abigail, Virginia is really the key bellwether. You're going to probably have a Republican almost certainly replaced by a Democrat. And Trump likes to stay away from anything that hurts.
I want to follow up on one thing quickly, though. You said you do not think that the gains that Trump made in New Jersey with Hispanic voters are going to cross over in this election.
I would be very surprised. Why? Because I think the Hispanic voters that really were, huge shifts in his direction. But because of the ICE actions, I do think you're going to see, and the Hispanic community obviously is not a monolith, but it's hard to imagine that level of enthusiasm will not be cut.
Rising price is a big deal for them.
It's all about affordability at the end of the day, of course, but.
Yeah, I think if you look at like what the coverage has been like on New Jersey, again, it's prices, it's electricity, which the current incumbent, the Democratic governor, has gotten a lot of the blame for among voters. So I actually don't know how it'll shake out, because maybe people are blaming President Trump for higher prices. Maybe they're blaming their Democratic governor for higher prices. So I feel like it's a little bit opaque in terms of how we should read whatever the results are from this election.
Yeah, I also think that it's way too close in the sense that Mikey Sherrill has been running a very risk-averse campaign, and that has caused there to be a little bit of closeness in this race where I don't think that necessarily should have been the case. Just on the economy for a little bit, I saw the statistic the other day that the top 10% of earners are currently responsible for 50% of consumer spending. Just think about that for a second. I mean, this is a ticking time bomb, and it didn't just start with Trump and the tariffs. This is a long-form issue that is the result of growing income and wealth inequality. And it's really coming home to roost with Trump's insane actions with these tariffs, and then also the spotlight on him not really doing anything about curbing inflation. And when you talk about those Latino voters who may not show up for him because of the ICE raids as well, Trump also has an advantage when he's on the ballot, and the rest of the Republican Party does not.
Remember how we have said in the past that Trump always chickens out? Well, just days away from Wednesday's high-stakes Supreme Court hearing over his tariffs, Trump is going back on something he said last month about potentially attending those arguments. Listen to what he told reporters on Air Force One.
So will you attend the oral arguments?
No, I don't think so, because I don't want to call a lot of attention to me. It's not about me, it's about our country. I'll be going to Miami. I'm going to make a speech in front of a large group of people in Miami and said I wanted to go so badly. I just don't want to do anything to deflect the importance of that decision.
Joining us now, Paul Butler, MSNBC legal analyst and former federal prosecutor, and Max Rose, former New York congressman and senior advisor for Vote Vets. Thanks to both of you for joining us. Paul, can you explain sort of the broad strokes for what is at stake in this case? It's not just about tariffs, which, matter to people because they're raising prices. It's about executive power.
It's about whether the president can randomly claim that there's an emergency and use that as an excuse to evade Congress and do whatever he wants to do. So the Court of Appeals said that when Trump invoked this act, it's called the International Economic Emergency Powers Act, that it was a power grab because it's Congress's responsibility to regulate tariffs. It's not the responsibility of the President of the United States. And it's not just tariffs where Trump has claimed an emergency. He used that to try to deport people without due process. He's used it to bring the National Guard to Washington, D.C. He's used it in any number of ways that the court in this case could say, go right ahead, Mr. President, do what you want to do, because we're not going to second guess you whenever you say there's an emergency. And just quickly to say how extreme it is, the emergency he's claiming to have tariffs against Canada, Mexico, and China is the fentanyl crisis. Now, that's a crisis, but it's hard to know what China and Canada.
Well, not even just the fentanyl crisis. Trump announced that he was going to cut off trade negotiations over these tariffs because he was so mad that the leader of Ontario had produced an ad with Ronald Reagan's own words. I mean, it's like... It's
a crisis, Catherine.
It's an emergency.
Come on, he's being trolled by a...
It almost feels like...
minor official in Canada.
Yeah.
Well, I believe we have a new True Social post from Trump about tariffs that we're going to put up on the screen, and just saying next week's case on tariffs is one of the most important in the history of the country. If a president is not allowed to use tariffs, we will be at a major disadvantage. So, Max, how do you think this is landing politically when new polling, NBC poll and a Washington Post poll that was both out today show that tariffs are Trump's most unpopular policy, yet he's more wedded politically to it than ever before?
Well, first of all, I think Donald Trump made his decision about the Supreme Court because he found out there are no video cameras.
That is a very wise insight.
It's like Court TV or Judge Judy.
He said, I'm out, not interested. Look, Donald Trump, this has been a part of his political ideology for decades, and there's no chance that he's stepping away from it. The challenge is, though, for him, is that the world has moved beyond the economic realities of when these ideas were formed for him. All he is doing with these tariffs is making it harder for hardworking Americans to buy the things that they so desperately need. That's one. Number two, though, he's hurting his own political base. When did that ever become a political thing, to exact economic hardship upon the people who voted for you? If you look at the farmers who he's actively trying to bail out, the only reason why he's having to do that is because of these tariffs. He's caught between a horrible rock and a hard place, but it's not just him, it's his entire party, and you have to think that this is going to be a leading issue in the upcoming midterms. It's
not just farmers, there are manufacturers that are actually hurt by this, as he is promising to bring back this manufacturing renaissance. Manufacturing firms in the United States buy inputs from abroad. They buy steel, they buy machinery, and they are suffering. Construction companies, everything that goes into a house right now is tariff. So it's hurting consumers, it's hurting businesses. There's a part of me that kind of wonders if the Supreme Court actually strikes down these tariffs, if it'll be a gift for Donald Trump.
I think what's happening here is a couple of things. You noted that Trump is missing, and all of a sudden, he said he was going to attend this high-profile court hearing, which, to be fair, would be inappropriate if he actually did go. But he said he was going to, and now, all of a sudden, he's not going. What a lot of people are saying is that Donald is sick again. Remember that weekend about a month ago when, to be honest, the entire internet was speculating that Trump was no longer with us, if you know what I mean? Do you remember that, guys? If you went on social media, the top trending thing was, Trump is DEAD. He was gone, right? And of course, it turned out he wasn't. And most people knew he probably wasn't. But when he came back, he looked very sick. A lot of people suggested that he might not be gone, but he's certainly being misleading about his health. Then it came out that he had a heart issue. Gavin Newsom even made a bold claim that Trump had suffered a stroke. Whether Newsom was joking or not, who knows? But I think Trump is hiding because he's sick. Being seen as sick would weaken him, not only in front of the public, but also among GOP rivals who are ready to try to take the throne. You know, even if Trump were a king, and he's not, but even if he was, there are always princes seeking the throne. And if a king is right on the edge, sometimes people are more likely to give him a little nudge and take the throne for themselves. Whether that's Prince Vance, Prince Rubio, Princess Haley, or even Prince Tucker, they're all looking to take the king's throne. But it's also possible that he's hiding because he knows he's electoral poison. Maybe that's hard to believe, but maybe he's learned his lesson. What happened in the 2022 midterms? Certainly, Republicans took a hit because of Dobbs and how the Supreme Court took away a woman's right to choose. But Donald also played a big role in those midterms, speaking a lot, holding rallies, and endorsing a bunch of extreme, unelectable GOP candidates for the Senate and other key offices. The Republicans lost a lot of those races, so Trump might be hiding because every time people are reminded of the sick, demented, evil, cognitively declining former president, a few more of them decide to vote Democratic. And Donald doesn't want that.